So yeah, hi everybody. I'll just do a very quick introduction. Hi, I'm Frances from Select Island, and I also look after the Erasmus courses promotion. So the background of this webinar is for those teachers that don't know about Select Island. Select Island, your school is part of Select Island. You are the eight best schools in Ireland. So we've got five centres in Dublin, two centres in Cork and a centre in Galway. So the schools work really well together on fan trips, on marketing proposals. We've done in-country workshops for agents and schools. And we're working closely together on Erasmus courses. So a few of the schools here recently went to the EAIE event in Sweden to promoting your centres to higher education across Europe. And we also do a series of webinars for Erasmus participants around Europe. So we've held about five or six so far. And Sarah gave a fantastic webinar that she's giving to you today. I also am from a teaching background and I learned so much. So I kindly asked Colum, the director of ATC, and Sarah if they'd be happy to deliver this again for all of you lovely teachers, because as you know, it's becoming more and more important knowing about digital tools and AI in the classroom. And also for you as teachers, the things that Sarah can show you can just save you so much time. There's some fantastic links. And so Sarah, will you be showing on the slides what the links to the different websites and platforms?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, lovely. So I'm going to go on mute and turn my video off because I'm going to be working on something in the background, but I'm here. So if you have any questions, Sarah, would you prefer them as we go or at the end?
At the end would be great.
Okay, te lovely teachers. So if you do have any questions on any of the platforms, save them all to the end and we'll have a short Q&A. Sarah, how long do you think we're going to be? 30 minutes, 40 minutes?
I'd say about 45 minutes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so thank you very much. Enjoy the session, everybody, and we'll be in touch. Thank you.
Thanks, Francis, and hi to everybody. Thanks very much for joining us today for this webinar. Like Francis said, my name is Sarah Corrigan. I'm an English language teacher, teacher trainer at ATC Language School in Dublin. I'm also a course developer and I developed our popular teacher training course, Teaching in the Age of AI. I'm a really big fan of generative AI and its potential in the language classroom for learners and also for teachers. I'm not really an AI expert or a tech expert, but I do experiment with different AI tools daily. So the goal of this webinar is to share a little bit about what I've learned to help you integrate AI into your teaching practice and see how you can use it in a really meaningful way to really enhance what you already do. A quick question for you before we start. If there is anyone here who is already using AI for teaching or in your teaching practice, I'm curious as to what is the main thing that you use AI for. For example, is it for creating lesson plans or speaking activities or listening activities? It'd be really nice to get just a quick overview of what you typically use AI for as a teacher. If I could ask you to pop an answer in the chat box, please. Or it could be the case that no one is yet using AI to help them uh, with their teaching. So hopefully then we'll get some nice ideas out of this webinar today for you. Lesson planning, perfect. Differentiation, yeah, it's really powerful. Differentiation tool. Gamma presentations, I love Gamma. Uh, Course design, curriculum support. Fantastic. Okay, great. So we're already kind of using it in various different ways to support us in our roles as teachers. So hopefully we'll get a few more ideas today. So first of all, you might be wondering why you need to be learning about AI at all as a teacher. And I just wanted to quickly put it into context that ChatGPT was first released for general use on the 30th of November in 2022. Now we're just under 3 years later. Its role in education is only growing more and more ubiquitous, more and more prevalent. And not just ChatGPT, but all large language models. A recent statistic from a report carried out by Microsoft showed that generative AI usage in education jumped from 45% in 2023 to 86% in 2024, and that education has the highest adoption rate of any industry of generative AI. In addition, within the field of education, English language teaching is actually the most common discipline for AI use in education. It's already inherently woven into how students are learning with tools like Grammarly, ChatGPT, Notebook LM now from Google, AI-driven search engines. These are just part of how students are learning now. Student usage at university level has surged to 92% in 2025, and major universities are embracing this shift. The University of Oxford will this year become the first university in the UK to provide free ChatGPT edu access to all of its staff and its students. So it's not really a question of whether these tools will change how we teach and how we learn. They are changing it as we speak. So we need to be thinking about how we're going to respond to that. Finally, then, the big question that most teachers have, a valid concern, is it going to replace me? And the short answer is no. Studies and reports that have been carried out so far really make it clear that AI just cannot replace the human aspects of teaching, like classroom management, motivation, connection with learners on a personal level. These things just can't be coded. The research advocates instead for a human-centered approach to AI as an enhancement tool and a support rather than a replacement. However, it is important to keep in mind that AI may not replace teachers, but a teacher who knows how to use AI effectively may replace one who doesn't. In other words, we really need to be thinking about training our staff so that AI is a part of everybody's professional skill set. Couple of things to keep in mind. There's quite a lot of benefits and also kind of concerns or risks when using AI, but I think the kind of two key ones are making sure you always check any AI outputs for accuracy and for bias before use, especially if it's something that you're using with your students, because AI can very, very confidently hallucinate, generate errors, cite false sources, so everything needs to be double checked and verified. And then also in terms of dealing with private data and student data, to never input personal or sensitive or confidential data into AI tools. One more thing that I think is really important and really affects the results that you'll get from using a tool like ChatGPT is writing an effective prompt. This is a sample prompt here. Write a lesson plan for teaching the past simple tense. I'd like to ask you if you could type into the chat, do you think this is a good prompt? Yes or no? Okay, yes, Kevin, thank you. He says no, undetailed. Select no, we don't know the age of the students, no level, no context, teach whom. Exactly, lack of detail. This is far too vague, not enough detail. What's much better is something like this. Hopefully that's okay to read, but including as much detail as possible. The student's age, level, nationality, interests. The clearer and the more contextualized your input, the better the output will be. It responds really well if you give it a role, say act as a da-da-da teacher or act as a da-da-da expert. Be super specific about what you want, set parameters and constraints. It responds really well to those as well. And if you can give it examples to copy, it also responds really, really well when it learns from examples. And remember that it's iterative as well. Never settle for the first output. You can kind of tweak it and refine it and retry until it's exactly what you want. ChatGPT is also incredibly intuitive. The more it learns about you and what you ask for and what you use it for, the better the results will be. You can get even better results if you go into the settings in ChatGPT and go into personalization, and you'll see different sections where you can add custom instructions, you can add information about yourself. I am an English language teacher, where my students are B1 level. I prefer a communicative approach in my lessons and things like that. You can also turn on the memory, which is a way for ChatGPT to remember conversations and interactions that you've had across different chats. And it just gives you much, much better results if you take the time to do those things. Okay, so we're going to get into looking at some of the different tools and what they can do for us as teachers. I've kind of broadly divided it into three categories: tools for creating, tools for supporting students, and tools for assessing students. Three areas where I think AI has really exciting potential for language teachers. So we're going to start off with looking at how we can use ChatGPT to create tailored texts and tailored materials. I'm sure most of you have experimented with this already in some form. Then we're going to look at a tool called TurboScribe, which is an AI transcription tool. And we're going to see how we can use that to create listening activities using authentic English. And then finally, we're going to look at a tool called Brisk Teaching. And again, this tool is going to help us to create really targeted listening practice activities for our students. So I'm going to open up ChatGPT. Okay, I'm going to start off nice and simple and generate a text. I've chosen the topic of St. Patrick. This is a real example of a text that I was looking for with students. I wanted a topic of St. Patrick's Day with B2 learners, of course. Okay. The really powerful thing about this is that you can generate the topic, you can dictate the level, you can embed any language that you want, any grammar or vocabulary that you want. You can really, really tailor it to exactly what you need or exactly what your students need. So here is the example that it's given me here. So I've got my 500-word text for my B2 learners. Of course, I would always have to double check this and verify this for accuracy. Maybe I have to see if I'm happy with the vocabulary and the level. But this looks good. I'd read it a bit more carefully if I was actually giving this to students. One thing that's really nice as well is that you'll notice it does these little follow-up questions. Would you like me to also adapt this into a gap-fill passive voice activity? Why not? Yes. And it will instantly generate that for me, please, as passive voice gap fill. So they have to change the verb into the passive form. Would you also like me to create a teacher answer key? So it'll just keep asking you more and more questions to keep creating, kind of keep the engagement. A couple of other options that we can go beyond just creating a text. If I wanted the activity to be a little bit more collaborative between my students, I might ask ChatGPT to divide the text into two parts to make an information gap so that the students are still receiving the content and the topic and the vocabulary, but it's now a question and answer speaking activity rather than a passive reading activity. I can also ask it to create a nice grammar activity, create inductive questions about the examples of the passive voice used in the text. So we're going back to it to analyze it for its use of passive voice. So it's got some nice inductive questions that I can give to the students. Would you like me to turn this into a guided worksheet task? Yes, please. And it's going to instantly generate a really nice discovery-led inductive worksheet that I can give to my students to help them help lead them to the form and meaning of the passive voice in the text. I can also ask it to generate discussion questions. Oh, sorry, I clicked on the wrong one. That's vocabulary. I can ask it to generate a vocabulary matching exercise with definitions. And one little trick that I really like to do with this, in particular if you're working with junior learners, is to ask ChatGPT to generate vocabulary and definitions. Ask it to format it in a table. Which it will do straight away. So now I can copy and paste my vocabulary and my definitions. I can pop over to whatever kind of gamified platform I'm using with my junior learners. So this is WordWall, create activity, match up, copy, and paste. And straight away, in no time at all, I have this nice vocabulary review activity that I can use with the students. This kind of copying and pasting over of the key vocabulary or the questions and the answers works really well with any kind of platform like Kahoot or anything like that. Discussion questions are some of the other examples that I had. Maybe I want to develop a full lesson around this. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT to compare a communicative task-based learning lesson for B1 learners on the topic, including a pre-task, a task cycle, a post-task, and a language focus. And it can do that for me as well. So really, the things that you can create with ChatGPT go far beyond just generating a text on a particular topic. Yes, you can generate a text and it can be highly tailored to exactly what you're looking for. But if you kind of interact with the AI and kind of keep tweaking and keep asking it to develop different things, you'll just have loads more options. Of course, we can do even more. And I'm going to just change back to my slides 1 second. Okay. So another example, maybe I'm working with designing a task to help with assessment. So I can put in my can-do statement from the CAFR and ask it to create a speaking assessment that will allow students to demonstrate this ability with including the task instructions and including a simple rubric for the teacher to assess the student. I can put in my lesson objective and ask it to generate a lesson plan that achieves that objective following a communicative approach or whatever kind of approach I want to follow, a project-based approach or a task-based approach. I can start with a topic. The topic of this coursebook unit is travel. So generate 3 possible warm-up activities I could use at the start of the lesson to activate students' background knowledge. Or you could also ask it to suggest extension activities as well for the coursebook. Image generation is a fantastic tool to play with as a teacher. I can use ChatGPT. I can also use Gemini or Canva. I can ask it to generate photos for discussion. For example, generate 2 photos so the students have to compare them. Generate a photo and predict what will happen next, the students. Or generate a photo and say what has just happened, present perfect continuous. Even storytelling, generating a really descriptive image that the students have to narrate or describe a story. There's so much potential for what you can do with speaking activities just with generating images. You can ask it to write a dialogue between 2 friends, putting in your target language. You can ask it to write a listening script for a B1 group with whatever functional language you're working on or whatever kind of topic that you're working on. And we'll see in a moment, then I can take this dialogue or I can take this listening script and use text-to-speech to create my own audio as well to use with my students. So as you can see, possibilities are endless with what you can generate using tools like ChatGPT or Google Gemini, Copilot or Claude, whichever you prefer. One of my favorite things to do though with AI with students is to use authentic audio and make transcripts and comprehension activities that go along with that audio. I think this is really, really useful for students in our context here in Ireland. that are international students living and working in Dublin and are exposed to a wide range of Irish accents that they're just not getting from their coursebook audio or, you know, any other audio that they're likely listening to. Not to mention in terms of like the vocabulary and the style of the way Irish people speak. So like to pull clips from Irish TV shows, in particular Irish reality TV shows, and use AI to generate activities to go along with them to give my students exposure to that authentic Irish English. So I'm going to show you how to do that now, how we can generate a transcript, how we can then use ChatGPT to identify different difficult features of speech, then how we can create listening gap fills and comprehension tasks for these audio clips, and then finally how we can use text-to-speech to create our own audio. So let's go back to ChatGPT. So an example of a clip that I've used before with students is this clip from First Dates Ireland, which has a couple on a blind date. So we've got a Dublin accent and we've got a Tyrone accent and we've got lots of great vocabulary and language. So it's a favorite clip of mine to use with students. The transcript that's provided with YouTube is not accurate because it can't understand the accents of the two speakers. So this is where my AI transcription comes in. So all I'm going to do is take my link and go to this website here, TurboScribe. Click up here, transcribe files, and paste my link. Down here, that'll go away in a second. Down here, you can see the different kind of options that you have. There's the fastest option, but of course we want to go for whale, which is the most accurate. So I'm going to click transcribe. It doesn't take too long to transcribe, but just to save time, I have one prepared here already, and I'll show you what you can do with it. So this is the transcript that I generated earlier. It is 99% accurate, but we do have a couple of errors. Like for example, here in speaker 2, oh, you're a dog, are you? When in fact, the speaker says, you're a dub, are you? So you have to double check it and edit it if needed. So it's nice, you can highlight.
Do you watch the Gillet?
So you can highlight different parts of it and listen to them again and again. Over here, you can edit it. So I'm going to have to edit this from dog to dub. Oh, and I'm from Sours needs to be edited because I believe he says I'm from Swords. So once I've made all my edits, then I can download it. I can download the audio alone as well. It's great to isolate it from the video, or I can download a PDF, which I'm going to do now. And then back over to ChatGPT, upload my transcript. And now I'm going to ask ChatGPT to analyze the transcript. Act as a phonology or pronunciation expert, English language expert, analyze the audio at the link above. So I've got the YouTube link here and the PDF transcript to identify any features of, that should say, connected speech in these two Irish speakers that will cause difficulty in understanding for B1 level learners, example weak forms, and then highlight these features in color coding in a new transcript. And it's going to do that for me straight away. So when it finishes this, like it's highlighted here, the connected speech, nice to meet you. The weak forms here, looking for, instead of looking for. Now, it knows what I want now because I've done this a few times. Would you like me to now design a micro-listening or decoding activity, a gap fill or noticing task using this transcript so your B1 students can practice hearing weak forms and linking in context? Yes, please. I don't know why it's assumed that this date took place on St. Patrick's Day, but yep, as you can see, you still always have to check for accuracy. So it's generated this nice transcript here for the students to do those micro-listening tasks that are going to help develop their bottom-up processing skills, where they're listening out for weak forms and reduced forms in the audio as well. Of course, I can also just generate basic comprehension questions as well by just asking ChatGPT to generate 10 multiple choice questions to accompany the episode as the students are watching. There is another tool that I can use for that as well, which I'd like to show you. I have another video here. Oh, sorry, one more thing actually I wanted to mention here as well is that if I want my color-coded transcript, I can ask it to generate it in a document or in a PDF, because for some reason the color coding isn't happening in ChatGPT itself, but when you download it as a PDF or as a Word doc, the color coding that I asked for earlier will be there. So just open the Word document that it's generated for me here. Oh, typical, of course, now it actually hasn't color coded it. But then that's just an example of how sometimes you don't get what you want, so you have to go back and ask it again. You know, I asked you to color code this, so please do it again. Okay, now we are going to move on to the tool that I wanted to show you for generating comprehension questions to go along with audio. And for this one, I have this video that I've just taken from the RTE News channel on YouTube. Also nice to bring in that authentic English and current events into the classroom for discussion with your students. And to make my comprehension questions for this video, I'm going to use Brisk Teaching, which is actually a Chrome extension. And when you have it installed, you'll just see it here. This little symbol, oops, this little symbol down here, I click on this and click create, and I can choose what I want to create. So I'm just going to create a simple quiz for my students to answer some questions on this news report. I can choose my language. I can choose my format. Do I want Google Doc or Google Form? I can choose the sort of age level, so not CFR aligned, but you can make the questions more difficult or more simple kind of by changing the age. Let's go with 10th grade and then click Brisket, and it will open a Google document with the instantly generated comprehension questions for the students. Or I can make it in a Google form and send that to the students directly. So that will just take a second to come up. So while we're waiting for that to load, I'll show you one other really fun thing that you can do at Brisk, which is opening just a blank document, clicking your little Brisk symbol down here again, clicking create, and clicking podcast. Now I'm going to ask it to create a dialogue between two people about weekend plans for A2 English learners. And I click Brisket again. Straight away, I have this audio generated.
Hi, Carlos. What are you doing this weekend? Hey, Maria, I'm thinking about some fun activities. How about you? I want to practice my English and maybe do something interesting.
So lots of potential here with tools that we can use, whether we are creating listening gap fill activities, we want to bring more authentic English into the classroom, we want to generate our own audio, we want to, create really tailored listening activities for students in our context of working and living in Ireland. These are the tools that are going to help us do that. So it just really enhances the the experience that you can give your students in the classroom with, the different types of English you can expose them to. I'm not sure why this isn't generating typical technical difficulties, but what you should see here is the quiz I asked it to create on that RT News video. Should be here. I'm not sure why it's not. Hopefully it appears before the end of the webinar. Okay, so those are the tools that I wanted to show you for how we can create different activities. It was really hard to narrow it down to just those few tools because there really is so much out there. But now I'd like to move on to talking about another really important use of AI in teaching, which is how it can support students. So we can use AI to help us to differentiate, to scaffold material for our learners. We can use it to make material more accessible for students with different needs, and we can use it to meet individual student needs. So we'll look first at differentiation. I can use ChatGPT to generate multiple versions of the same task. I can use ChatGPT to simplify a task, expand it, or reframe text to different CEFR levels. I can ask ChatGPT to generate extra tasks or extension tasks for my fast finishers. Another tool that's really, really useful for differentiation is a tool called Diffit, and it's brilliant. I'll show you very quickly how you can use it to generate resources for your lessons, but it automatically applies differentiation to it. Where's Diffit here? So back to St. Patrick. You can see here, you can put your topic here, or you can upload a PDF or put in a YouTube link. I'm literally just going to create a topic about St. Patrick. And again, here I can change the level. It's also not CFR aligned. I'm going to go for 10th grade. If you are wondering, is there a way to align a CFR level to a rough age level? I would ask ChatGPT what CFR level would a 10-year-old reading level be? And that might help you to align it a little bit better. So it instantly generates really nice materials that I can adapt. I can adapt the length. I can modify the reading. Oops, let's sign in. Okay, so I can modify it, I can include more detail, I can remove information, I can rewrite with specific vocabulary words that I want to use. I can also change the activity to different types of activities like reading with space for note-taking at the side. I can choose any of these that come up at the side here, which are really nice. It's going to generate this vocabulary automatically. I can modify that vocabulary, increase complexity, decrease complexity. I can change the activity to a vocabulary with images, reading with vocabulary, parts of speech, which is a nice one, and it'll instantly change it again. I can also have questions, multiple choice, short answer, think, pair, share, and anything that I see here, I can modify it. I can change it, and then I can share it directly with my students by clicking export. So this all used to be free, but it's now the premium version, but I can still download a PDF and share it with my students straight away, or even just put it up on the board if I don't want to be printing off loads of PDFs. So Diffit is a tool that I think is really, really powerful for yes, creating materials and resources, but also for creating, in particular, differentiated resources. So here is the PDF that it has generated for me. So that's the worksheet on parts of speech and the questions. So I can choose what I want to use and differentiate as I go. Then we want to look at how it can help us with scaffolding. We can use ChatGPT again to generate model texts for learners, to create sentence frames and starters to support speaking and writing. We can generate word banks, we can generate glossaries, we can generate tiered practice going from a model to a gap fill to total independence. We can adjust the level of support for different learners. So it really provides a lot more support to our students and saves us a lot of time as well. Another really powerful benefit of AI is how we can make material more accessible to learners, in particular learners with different needs. So for example, for maybe students with vision impairment, I can use text-to-speech tools to instantly convert text into audio. An example of a tool there is Natural Reader, but there's lots and lots of tools online. Just search for text-to-speech. For students with dyslexia, I can use ChatGPT to edit a text to aid with processing, asking it for shorter sentences, bullet point notes, mind maps. I can use tools like Mapify and Canva to generate infographics and diagrams and timelines for students who are visual learners. Another great tool is NoteGPT. I am not opening up each one of these just for time, but do check them out yourself. NoteGPT can create these really nice summaries, so that helps reduce cognitive load for students. If you've got like a long text, it can generate a nice summary. It can generate vocab lists. You can ask ChatGPT to make dyslexia-friendly layouts with color coding and font that's easier for students with dyslexia to read. And then finally, meeting the needs of individual students. I think this is a real game changer for how we can use ChatGPT to directly identify gaps that our students have in their learning and then fill in those gaps. So imagine I have a Brazilian learner that's struggling with the initial consonant S. I asked ChatGPT to give me 20 common words beginning with S and create a tongue twister to practice them. Or I might have a Turkish learner who struggles with word order, so I'll ask ChatGPT to create scrambled sentences for the student to put into the correct word order. So the students are really getting this highly, highly personalized, highly targeted practice in the areas that they specifically need it in. And this kind of generation is just something that they can't get from like a mass-produced course book or mass-produced photocopiable materials. Okay, last but not least is assessing. We can use AI tools to create games and quizzes for our students. I love using games and quizzes with students, but not just as a kind of end of class reward, but also as an assessment tool. A lot of the gamified platforms like Kahoot are great ways to track your students' progress. I'm going to show you a tool you can use for student speaking assessment. And then we finally just very quickly look at going back to TurboScribe to use it to analyze students speaking. So, nearly there. The tool that I wanted to show you guys to create games and quizzes is called Question Well. This is a really, really nice website to explore because there's a couple of different things you can do here. But I think the thing that saves us the most time is the fact that it's integrated with all of those popular platforms that teachers love to use. So I want 10 multiple questions about St. Patrick. It's going to generate these questions for me straight away. And then I can instantly import those questions into Kahoot, Bluekit, Gymkit, Quizlet. You'll see all the options pop up in a second of all of the different tools that I can instantly copy across the questions. That's taking a little bit longer than it normally does. It's normally much faster. And once it's done, I'll show you how you can instantly create, say, for example, a Kahoot. And close some of these tabs to make it a bit faster. Okay, I'm going to let this work away in the background, and I am going to show you the tool for student speaking assessments, which is called Mizu. And oh, here it is, perfect. Okay, so here is my text and here are my questions. Obviously, I read everything, I check it, I edit it. Imagine I choose these 5 questions here. Up here, click Export. And here are all the platforms that I can directly export these quizzes to. Kahoot, Quizzes, Blooket, Quizlet, you know, whatever you like to use with your students, you can instantly import it. So I'm going to use Kahoot. I'm going to create a Kahoot. Just go to blank canvas and add a question. And up here you'll see import. Import spreadsheet. So I'm going to just upload that spreadsheet that I just downloaded. Okay. And boom, straight away, my questions are there and my Kahoot is made. To be honest, you don't even really have to do this anymore because they've just integrated AI directly into Kahoot. So you could just write into Kahoot's AI, generate 10 questions, multiple choice questions about St. Patrick's Day. Mizu is the last tool we're going to see today, which is a chatbot that students can interact with. And you as the teacher can kind of listen in to the conversation for assessment. It's really, really nice. I'll just show you here how it works. Okay. Another nice way that you can use AI to assess student speaking is very, very simple. With your students' permission, record them doing a short speaking assessment, upload the recording to TurboScribe, generate the transcript, then import the transcript into ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to assess and analyze the student speaking to identify areas where it struggles and to kind of build a personalized learning path based on that recording. Or you can build your own chatbot, which is really fun. So we're going to go AI generated. Here I'm going to put my learning objective. Students will be able to talk about their last holiday using past simple. Nice and classic. Choose a grade, again, not CFR aligned. Let's go with grade 6, which I think is about 10 years old, maybe. And then it gives me these choices: conversation practice, story builder, or a quiz. So I want my students to have conversation practice. So it's going to generate a chatbot that's going to actually do that. Here's the instructions for the AI. Here's my name, my picture. There's lots of other options here I can choose. I can change my voice and things like that. And then I publish it and send it to the student. And basically the student gets a link from me, the teacher, opens it up on their device and has a conversation with the chatbot. Then when the student is finished, you get a kind of a assessment of their performance, of how they did. So this is one that I did before as a student. And I'm going to open it up here. You can see that it's given me, that was me giving poor answers to the chatbot. And you can see that it's given me the grade C because I engaged minimally in the conversation and I gave short responses. I made a grammatical error. So as the teacher, I can see the interaction that the student had with the chatbot, and it really helps with assessment. So that's all of the tools that I have for you today. Unfortunately, we only have the hour. Otherwise, I could have shown you about 50 other tools that I think are really useful and really helpful. But hopefully those ones that we saw today have given you some new ideas on things you can do with AI to help you in your role as a language teacher and to better support your students as well. So thank you very much for listening.
Sarah, hi.
Yeah.
Hi. From those platforms there that you use, which
Mhm.
do you pay for? Like I saw WordWall, that you have to pay for. Do you have to pay for Kahoot or Mizzou or
Mizzou is completely free.
yeah?
Every other tool that I used is free with limitations. So, for example,
Okay.
with WordWall, I think you can only create 5 free activities,
Yeah.
and then you have to pay if you want to create more. But a little tip around that is that you can just duplicate the same activities and then change the content inside. ChatGPT obviously is free to use, but it has some limitations on things like how much you can upload and image generation and things like that. Diffit, completely free, but some of the features are premium only. Um, Brisk is completely free. TurboScribe is completely free, but you only get 3 transcriptions per day, but I think that's more than enough. So yeah, the vast majority of the tools are free, but with limitations on use.
Okay. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? I was very absorbed. I think they're all dazzled, Sarah. They're all shocked at your amazing tech abilities.
No, I'm just lazy. I'm just trying to find shortcuts to make my life easier. That's all.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's like it takes a little bit of work to learn the tools, but then
Yeah.
after that, so if you were to say to any of our lovely colleagues here, apart from ChatGPT, which
Mhm.
one would you tell them to definitely check out?
Think it really depends on what you are using it for. Um, but I would have to say it's TurboScribe for its use with using authentic English. I'd really encourage trying that out and exploring how you can bring more real, TV series or clips into the classroom to give your students more exposure to, how we're actually speaking English here in Ireland and in Dublin. Um, I think that's a big area of potential. And DIFID as well for differentiation if you've got mixed ability classes, which we all do.
Okay, and for your students using these different sorts of activities, how do they react? I mean, how does it, improve or change your lessons?
I think it makes the lessons a lot more personalized, a lot more engaging, a lot more creative as well, because we can kind of get stuck in a bit of a rut of just using the course book, and the students can be a bit demotivated. But now all of a sudden I have lots of ideas to try things in a different way. I have lots of ideas for adapting my course book. I have lots of ideas for motivating my students. And I can also help my students specifically with their issues. So if a student comes to me and says, "Oh, I want to be at B2 level, what should I do to get there?" Then AI can really, really help me to develop a specific and personalized kind of learning path for that student based if I use it to assess their speaking. It as for the student as well, using it as an independent study tool, it's got a lot of potential as well.
And what about Mizu? Have your students responded well to Mizu?
Yes. I think that any kind of opportunity to do something that's new in that way, a little bit of a novelty, always has a really good reaction. But they especially liked that they could see their mistakes that were being made, and that the mistakes are being explained, and then that they would have the chance to do it a second time again, and they would have the chance to try and apply the feedback and try and correct their mistakes.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Joe has said, I can completely see your points about the benefits, but what are your reservations regarding AI? And I agree here.
Mhm.
How do you address those? I'm concerned about the negative effects of data saving, water use, And so that's one point, the sort of ecological impact of AI, then also the reaction artists have to the way AI uses their work and pay to generate their image. But that could be the same for musicians as well. People's
Yeah.
music or art is uploaded. So how do you feel about the sustainability, the eco aspect of it?
I think that's a really, really valid concern. I can't remember the exact figure, but it's something like each time you ask ChatGPT a question and it generates an output, it uses like X liters of water, and the figure is actually really, really high. So it's something that I'm also kind of grappling with as well, like how to move forward and using it in an ethical way, in a sustainable way. That's something that I'm still learning about. But I think it's really important to think about it.
Yeah, I think the whole thing of carbon footprint, if people are
Mm,
concerned, and when you've got to look at your whole thing, are you flying? Are you driving a diesel car? Are you this, that?
yeah,
Um, there's that element, but even things like, as unsubscribing from newsletters, every time you get an automated newsletter, like I'm about to send to everybody now, that uses electricity. So there's that element. So I think Joe, it's a very valid point on the sustainability side of it all. But I'm just very this is something that if you're using ChatGPT, put as much into one prompt
yeah,
as possible. So instead of going, can you create a lesson? It goes, oh yes, what would you like me to create a lesson about? Can you do it on the past simple? Okay, who's your audience? Oh yeah. Whereas if you put in a huge prompt, it will still use more energy, but instead of the tennis that you're having, that saves it. And then also, I personally only use it when I really need to use it. If I can use Google,
yeah.
I'll use Google because you could be guilty of just using it for anything.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point as well to kind of avoid kind of falling into the trap of over-reliance. It's fantastic to automate things where it's going to save us a lot of time, where it's going to really enhance our teaching, but not to just use it for the sake of using it. If you can do it another way first, I think that's really important.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, young people, Joe just said, yeah, young people are using ChatGPT the way we use Google and there's no
Mm,
benefit. Yeah, and that's it. I mean, another big debate that I've got teenage children is that, parents are saying, is it going to cause brain rot? It makes you lazy, that you don't challenge yourself to actually, for critical thinking skills,
yeah.
you'll just depend on it or
Hmm.
doing other forms of research. But, is ChatGPT and AI the new Google? Right. Okay. So, Lewis, have you put much thought into student use of ChatGPT and even AI generated search results, especially when it comes to project-based work? So, this is something that we've had for 21st century and AI skills,
Hmm.
is the ethical use of it. And I'm sure this is a big debate for teachers as well, of, if they are relying on it too much in project-based work
Yeah,
students would formally engage in the real world, research on simple, they're now using ChatGPT to do the heavy lifting. So as a
exactly.
teacher, if you're teaching a group of young learners, would you advise them to engage more or?
It's actually something that we're really thinking about at the moment. We're developing a new teacher training course to help teachers teach their students how to use AI critically and responsibly. So it's kind of something we're really exploring. Is that possible? How can it be done? And I think that a good way to approach it for project-based learning is not to ban the use of ChatGPT or ban the use of AI. Maybe we start off with more traditional research, and then we later use ChatGPT as sort of a writing tool or an editing tool that can help me to kind of get to my final product, but I'm not using it as my platform for research, I think would be something that I would be quite strict about with junior learners.
It is, I mean, and at an educational national level, I think it's something that they've got to approach, haven't they? Like with social media and online bullying, that's going to be
Yeah,
the next
yeah.
thing that they've got to consider. Okay, we've been almost an hour. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any more questions? I can see Kevin there down in Cork. Hi, Kevin. Okay, I think people are leaving. We're
Okay.
getting on for tea time. So Thank you so much, Sarah. So I've recorded that and I'll send that on because there was so much I think we need to.
Yeah.
And if you could kindly send me over the slides as well, and I'll forward those with all the links.
Will do.
All right, great. Thank you, Sarah. Bye, everybody. Thank
Thank you.
you. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.